Welcome, everyone. Happy Hanukkah. And in the East Coast, it's looking like a happy snow day. Thank you for joining us for Children and Screens Institute of Digital Media and Child Development's special holiday Ask the Experts webinar. I am Dr. Pamela Hirst Della Pietra, President and founder of Children and Screens and host of this series. Our panel of experts will discuss all the ways you can make the most of this holiday season at home, exciting ideas for spending time as a family, inspired gift options, and how to be mindful about your family's screen time. Our panelists have reviewed the questions you submitted and will answer as many as possible. If you have additional questions during the workshop, please type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and indicate whether or not you'd like to ask the question live on camera if time permits, or if you would prefer that the moderator read your question. We are recording today's workshop and hope to upload a video to YouTube in the coming days. All registrants will receive a link to our YouTube channel where you'll find videos from our past webinars as well. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our moderator. Jessica Hartshorn has been entertainment editor of Parents Magazine, part of Meredith Publishing, for 7 years. For the first 4 of those years, she was simultaneously the senior lifestyle editor of American Baby Magazine. Her current job, a combination of beats she has long covered and skills she has had to learn, includes booking celebrity covers, following the toy industry and the baby gear market, helming finance stories, and writing about home tech in addition to a few other subjects. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. We have had quite a year, correct?
Absolutely.
And I am excited to talk about the holidays. It has been a long 9 months for all of us trying to navigate the unnavigatable, right?
Yeah.
It's been a lot of together time with our families, for better, and also a little bit for worse, because some things felt really odd. The start of school was completely different. Halloween was tough to pull off like we usually do. We had to cancel trips. We've had no kid birthday parties, but the good news is the holidays, the winter holidays, specifically the December holidays, are very home focused, right? And so the decorations we put up and the things we bake and the holiday songs we play can all be pretty much as usual. And those traditions are very comforting and very sweet. And we're going to try and lean into that this year, and also give you tips to make the holidays special when we are in fact still home for the holidays, as this is called, because what is missing this year is, again, any travel or seeing the larger family. But that doesn't mean that this has to be a wasted winter break. We're going to go in strong. We're going to go just be staring at our separate screens, because there's been too much of that already. And we want this winter break to be a little more fun and memorable and as sweet as it can be. And I have an amazing group to talk to today about all this. I'll introduce, I guess, one at a time and have them start their videos. Arlene Pellicane is a nationally known speaker and an author. Her books include Screen Kids, Grandparenting Screen Kids, and she does a podcast called Happy Home. So welcome, Arlene. And then we have, hello, there's Arlene with the festive candy canes. We have Julianna Miner. She is also an author and the writer and founder of Rants from Mommyland, which is a blog that we love at Parents Magazine. She's also an adjunct professor of global and community health at George Mason University, which I did not know until today. And on Instagram, she's at Mommy Rants. She is super fun to follow. And then we have Dr. Laura Markham here, a clinical psychologist who's the author of Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids, How to Stop Yelling and Start Connecting. And Dr. Laura Markham is a clinical psychologist, and her website is ahaparenting.com, where she has a lot of great advice and tips. And lastly, our fourth panelist is Dr. Kathy Hirsh-Pasek. She is a researcher in the field of child psychology and development at she's at Temple University. She's also at the Brookings Institution. She has just nationally renowned research in the development of early language and literacy. She's the author of 14 books and hundreds of publications. So I am so excited as a journalist, mostly I like to ask other people questions more than I like to talk. And the big question that I have, having a 15-year-old son, and also an 18-year-old daughter, is how can we keep the kids just from spending this entire winter break on their screens? How can we, I mean, we're not going to eliminate screen time. We're not crazy, but how can we sort of pull away from that a little bit and make this a more of a family break? And I'm going to start with Dr. Laura Markham as our first answer to this question.
Okay, well, this is the question that every parent is wondering at this moment as they head into the winter break, obviously. And I think the first thing for parents to remember is that we're the role models. You know, if we are on our screens the whole time, if we expect to work, they're going to be on their screens. There's no way around it. So I think parents first have to take some time off. You know, work has, during this pandemic, has encroached on everything. So we're working at home, meaning we're always at work, right? So we need to be putting work back in its box and committing to being there with the family, being present, and not being on our screens all the time. That's number one. The second is that if you don't have a schedule, screens will just take over the time. Then every moment becomes a power struggle about whether you're going to be on a screen or not. Your child is going to be on a screen or not. So if instead you make a plan, you make a schedule, then you at least have a possibility that you'll follow that schedule instead of screens happening all the time. And I think the adults have to get in sync first with each other about what's ideal. You know, maybe every day at 4 o'clock, the kids can watch something, but before that, certain things are going to happen. Maybe we're all going to do a family activity together. Maybe we're all going to go outside together. Maybe we're always going to have a family dance party first thing in the morning after breakfast, which segues into the house cleanup. You know, whatever the adults decide should happen, obviously you have to exercise that leadership, but then you have to enroll your kid. And I call it motivational interviewing, which is a famous technique to help people resolve their own ambivalence. You know, I'd like to stop smoking, but how do I do that if I really don't want to stop smoking? A motivational interviewer would help you discover the reasons to stop smoking and maybe how you could do it. We can use that with our kids about screens. So if you have a child who wants to be on screens, you might be asking questions like, you know, at the end of the holidays, when you look back on January 4th, that Monday morning, what would you like to have had happen? Let's brainstorm. Maybe they want to paint their room. Maybe they want to learn to make lasagna. Maybe they really don't want to do anything except play Minecraft with their friends on screen. But you can say, I get it, you know, that you really want to play Minecraft. Tell me the good things about playing Minecraft. And tell me the bad things about playing Minecraft to the exclusion of all else. So if the parent can listen and reflect like, well, it sounds like you would like it if your room got cleaned up finally. It sounds like you would actually like some help from your dad to build that bookcase you've been talking about, you know, then kids are more likely to be enrolled in the schedule. So it's a parents have to finesse sort of being the leader, but also enrolling kids before kids are willing to let go of their screens to that degree.
That is great advice. And I will add that I had to look up how to turn off notifications, but I did figure it out. And that is an important thing for me to do as a parent, because I really will check if a notification's coming up, I will check my phone.
Yeah.
To turn it off for that week between Christmas and New Year's is one of my goals. And I do like the idea of asking kids like the bucket list thing. Like I often ask before a vacation, back when we had vacations, like what is the one thing you want to have done to do on this vacation? So I'm going to try that for winter break. Like just tell me one thing you want to do on break and we'll try and make that happen. Dr. Kathy Hirsh-Pasek, do you have some other advice for not staying on our screens all break?
Well, thanks for asking. And first, I just want to congratulate all the parents out there. I think what you have done over the last 9 months is nothing short of Herculean. I have watched it up close and personal and sometimes from afar. I don't know how you're doing it and how you're juggling it. Oh my gosh. So here are some things that we've done to get off those screens. I started thinking of screens a little bit like dessert. That is, I know that they're really fun and I know that you really want them. And sometimes, of course, you have to be there for school, though for younger kids, honestly, I think online schooling is an oxymoron. But putting that aside for the moment, what could you do? Would you give your kids dessert for dinner? I mean, they want it, so shouldn't you do it? Of course not. You say, first you have to eat your veggies. And I think that's kind of what Laura was telling us. Let's try to think of something else you have to do and let that be the reward. So what did we do in our house? Well, we had kitchen music. Oh my gosh, you should hear kitchen music. Did you know pots and pans with wooden spoons together with clanking in the middle and clanking on the top? You can create one heck of a band. Think about kitchen cooking. Yeah, it's a little messier depending on the age of the child, but you should see what they can come up with. And sometimes the recipes you wouldn't think about, like putting peanut butter in the cantaloupe. But if they're going to eat cantaloupe that way, who cares? Scavenger hunts. Did you know that you can do them indoors if you happen to live in a northern climate? And we can just go around and we can paste pictures of find these things and then give our kids what we want them to find. And they go all around the house. It can take you a good 20 minutes, maybe even 45 if you're lucky, to get them really excited about whether they can find everything that you put out there. Charades, still a good family game. So I think we can think of a lot of things if we just start dreaming. And yes, our kids' drawings and our kids' books, sometimes they're not going to make it onto the shelves of Barnes and Noble, but that's okay. And in the video that I have to share, I'll show you in a little bit just what it looks like when a little kid who's just 5 writes her own story.
When we go through all kinds of ideas for how we're gonna do this winter break without our screens. I did, by the way, figure out, I looked up how to turn off notifications. It is on your phone under settings and notifications, or at least it is on my iPhone, and I have to remember to do that. And also, I was gonna say, oh, here comes the video. Oh yeah, let's watch her make this book.
Okay, now this is a book that she created. It's a story that she wrote. And as you can see, the yellow things, there are the illustrations. And it only captures young Jules, 3-year-old's attention for a little while, but Ellie is raptured by having written her very own book. Mom typed it out, Ellie wrote the illustrations, and there you have the mystery book.
So they did it together, and she dictated, and the mom wrote out the words, printed it out, and then she drew the illustrations. That is so cute.
Yeah, and you can even have some fun with it, you know. You can have an author page. And don't forget to ask your little author what they want to say about themselves. It's usually very interesting.
I love these indoor ideas because during the summer, I was definitely falling back on bike rides and things outdoors. But living here in the north, like that is not such an option. Something like a scavenger hunt or creating a book like this is definitely more doable.
Yeah.
The sunlight became blue and the wind became calm. Yeah, there was once a big meteor from the dinosaurs alive.
There you go.
Very cute. Arlene Pelican, do you have some more ideas for how we can not be on our screens, both parents and kids, during this break?
Yeah, I think this is a great, you could see the winter break as a reset, you know, kind of like usually it's that, oh, let's give them screen time because it's been school. But now it's like, wait a minute, you've been on screens since March. So maybe the Christmas break should be a time where we're like, hey, why don't we log off and throw snowballs or go outside, whatever it is. So, you know, thinking of a digital Sabbath, whether that's, hey, you know what, on weeknights after 9 p.m. or whatever it is with the age of your kids, we're all going to get offline. Now, I say 9 p.m. for your teenagers, but obviously if little ones after 6 p.m., we're going to all go offline, mom and dad included, and we're going to make that a habit. Maybe you'll do that one night a week. Maybe you'll do that every weekend. You can challenge yourself and say, could our family, and this is for the parents too, and whether you have a 2-year-old or an 18-year-old, could we go, let's say, all day Sunday without being plugged in? Like, could we do it? And even just that, and you could call it, holiday survival, and make it really fun. But I think it's a really good question to ask ourselves as adults, because we're the parents. And in the sense that sometimes we give the screens because it's like, oh, if they don't have the screens, they're going to ask us, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And you're like, I don't want to do anything. So get back on your screen. So it's a challenge for everybody, whether you're a teenager, parent, 2-year-old, hey, let's go screen free. So I give you that screen free Saturday challenge or screen free Sunday challenge, and see which of it's a good indication, because it'll tell you which of your family members is the least addicted, so to speak, right? And which of your family members really needs their technology. So I think that's a great thing. And whether your kids are little or old, you can talk about freedom and frame it in, do you have this freedom from needing the technology? So it's a, do you have to have it kind of question. And then it's also when you have that under control, then you have freedom to do other things. It's like, oh, I don't have to be scrolling on social media for 2 hours. So sure, I'll go to the mall with you, mom, or I don't have to be playing video games for 2 hours. So you know what? I'm going to learn how to play an instrument. So you can see in the background here, I have a guitar on the wall. So you think we play the piano, but we don't play the guitar. But my husband bought a guitar years ago to learn. So we have it, but none of us really play it. So my daughter, who's a freshman, has talked about like, oh, maybe I'll learn how to play the guitar. So we've talked about, well, you'll have a little extra time during the break. So that might be a good time. And yes, you're going to pull up some YouTube videos to kind of see how to play the guitar. So you can use screens. I think if you're using them to create something, to learn a how-to. And I love what Dr. Kathy said about the dessert. And that's something we talk about all the time is this a digital vegetable, something that's good for you, or is it digital candy, something that's just fun? And you can tell the difference because they're asking for the digital candy. Nobody's asking like, Mom, can I just watch one more TED Talk? Dad, I just need to watch that lecture one more time. Mom, I just need that math equation. I mean, no one's asking, you'll know right away. So they cannot OD on digital vegetables. They're going to survive the school year just fine. But the question is, are they going to survive the extra video gaming, the extra social media, all those habits? And the holiday break may be just the time to test that.
That is so true and so funny to me, and also relevant to us when you keep saying to look at, and I am not watching TED Talks, I'm scrolling Instagram. So I'm just trying to turn it around on myself too and be like, can I cut back? Can I set that example? Julianna Miner, do you have anything to add for cutting?
I want to kind of just agree with what everyone else has said. I have teenagers, and it's really hard to get them off their phones and off gaming because it's really their only social outlet right now. And teenagers are so hardwired to need that peer connection. And I really want to keep them safe because COVID community spread is such a big deal right now. And so we are limiting it. And I am trying to keep them focused on making things. So when you had talked about being creative, and because they're older, we're also kind of framing it as adulting. So, getting laundry done, getting things around the house done, helping address and stamp envelopes. It's shocking the number of high school students that don't know how to address an envelope. And the other thing that we're really embracing this winter, we recently moved, we have dogs and we don't have a fence. So whether the weather is good or bad, we are outside 5 times a day walking those dogs. And it's actually a thing in Scandinavian culture to just say there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only bad preparation. And being forced to be outside in all kinds of weather has meant that we've had to gear up a little bit in terms of raincoats and comfy boots. And it means we're all more comfortable being outside all the time. So even if it's cloudy and gross, I'm like, go walk that to the mailbox. Go up to the post office and drop that off. Help me cook this thing, especially over the holidays where we have so many family traditions and we're so isolated from family. We're trying to make the 7 fishes. I've never made all of them before, but I'm going to do it this year. Those little kids are going to help. Even if they don't want to eat all of it, they're going to help. And so we've been enjoying that. And we've been doing some like playing cards. People don't play enough cards. I feel like I'm going to really be preparing them well for, life in college. When you get bored, sit down and play cards with your friends. Sit down and play cards with us. Listen to dumb music while you're doing it. I love the idea about the guitar. Ukulele is easy. It's such a great present for a teen, and they can get so much enjoyment out of it, and you can make so much progress in terms of learning and getting songs under your belt on that instrument quickly. We're just having to get creative and trying to really dig into the season. Most schools are getting out this week, which means there's a lot of lead time up to Christmas if you celebrate it. So I am going to be forcing my children to make gifts, which I know they'll really enjoy.
Yeah, I think we all, if we're on this webinar, we share the desire to not really let this one go by, right? We've done so much just surviving this year. We got through the summer, we're getting through the weekends, but we want to just enjoy this winter break. It is kind of a rare opportunity to not have party obligations, to not have travel obligations. We can make some memories here, right? Do it. To that end, let's get some really just some ideas, some real actionable tips and ideas from you guys. Who wants to start? Let's see. I think Arlene, you have a video to show us of an idea you can do with kids.
Yeah, it's things that you can do around the house. And you know what? You may be in this time where you're more flush with cash because you haven't gone out and spent it. So it's kind of lots of presents this year. Or you might be the opposite, that it's been, man, this has been just such a tough year economically. How are we going to do this? So I'm going to just share just free things you can do around the house just to make the holidays kind of special. So one of my daughters, I have a 6th grader and a 9th grader and an 11th grader. And for those of you with little kids, I promise you, I know you hear this all the time, you will blink and all of a sudden they'll be giants. So just even though you feel like you're going to pull your hair out, enjoy them. It's such a great stage when you have your kids with you. So for the kids, they would love to sing. So my daughter especially loves to sing. So one of the disappointments this year, she was going to be in a school play. She was going to be Mufasa in The Lion King. So this was super exciting. She's in 6th grade. You finally get a lead role. And then, of course, that was canceled. So you know what? We're not going to sing Circle of Life, but we will gather and we'll just sit underneath the Christmas tree and we will sing. And, and it's so simple. But singing is so good for the mood and good for your emotions. And it's such a beautiful memory. So dim the lights in your house, light some candles, sit by the tree, sing your favorite Christmas carols. Is something so easy to do. And you could even do it every night, after dinner, maybe the few nights leading up to Christmas, something like that. Something you can do with candy canes, instead of just handing them to your kids, you can take a pack of small candy canes. And then maybe while they're sleeping, you can hide them all throughout the house. And then in the morning, you can we can have a scavenger hunt for candy canes, and so something like that. And then with your older kids, you can hide them, more so during the day. So when they're doing something and, you'll figure it out how to hide them, but then turn off all the lights and then do it in the dark. So do the candy cane scavenger hunt in the dark, only using little flashlights or maybe a little glow stick if you want to get super challenging, or the light from the phone. So these are just such simple ways that you can kind of bring some excitement into, okay, here we are again. Same thing when you open your Christmas gifts. When you open your gift, it's so exciting, but it's over like that. So you could make up a little rhyme scheme or even just clues of where they could find their gift. So maybe the gift has been under the tree this whole time, but Christmas morning they wake up and they're like, oh, where's my gift? and maybe you've hidden it in the shower, or you've hidden it in the laundry room or whatever. And then you have like little clues. And this is really fun, whether your child is, 2 or whether your child is, 15, you can still do this. With your little kids, I remember when our daughter Lucy, she loved Violet, which was this little leapfrog little dog, purple dog that talked to her and, all this stuff. She loved Violet. And one year we took Violet on Christmas Eve and we rewrapped her and we put a bicycle helmet on her and like little wristbands on her. And we made her like biker Violet. And that was one of my most fun things, when to watch my 2-year-old open up her beloved Violet. And she was like, oh, Violet, like, how'd you get in there? How'd you get it? Didn't be my Christmas present. She had a biking helmet on, she had that outfit. And I was like, that was like the best idea ever. So with your little kids, you can honestly take their beloved toys and like do something to them, dress them up, have them hold something funny, like do something funny and wrap it up, and they'll open it and they're so delighted and they think it's so funny. So that was one thing that I liked. And so in this video, I'm going to show you, these are my girls who are so big now, Noelle and Lucy, and they're just going to show us how to make a snowflake with a piece of paper and scissors. So if you right now, maybe you're sitting at your desk, want to grab a piece of paper and a pair of scissors, you can make your way to Mary right now and make your first snowflake. But this is something really easy you can do with your young kids and with your teenagers, and your teenagers could make a ton of them and decorate their room with them. So we'll watch the video now.
Hello, and today we're going to learn how to make a snowflake. So you're going to take just a regular sheet of paper, and then you're going to fold it so these two ends meet. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors and you're going to chop off this extra part. Alright, so now we have a square. Alright, so now I pull that back up. And you're going to fold it again, so just like so, in half. And next, what you're going to do is you're going to take one side and fold it so it goes like so. So that it forms a straight line right there. Next, you're going to take the other side and you're going to do the same thing, so like so. So now you have something that looks a bit like this. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut across that line right there. So just like that. Now you don't have to worry about this you can just throw in the trash. So now what you want to do is this is where you're going to put your design. So let's say you want to cut off a little bit in there, maybe like that, like so. So, alright. I think that's good. So now let's unwrap it and see what it looks like. There you go. And you just made a snowflake.
That's very beautiful.
Yeah.
And so you can make lots of variations by how you cut inside.
Yeah.
Those are so beautiful.
So something
I
so
love it.
easy, so easy. Even people that are craft challenged like me can follow along and do that.
Right? You can hang them in the window. It's kind of meditative, sitting and cutting out snowflakes. Julianna, I know you have 3 kids as well. Do you have some ideas for things we can do during break?
Yeah, I do. I have to say, Arlene, I love your idea around free fun. And I'm someone who's always like collected free fun for our family at various stages. And, it's in some ways easier when they were younger because they would always be so happy just to go to the playground. That would be a huge reward. Now I have to get a little more creative with the older ones, especially to get them all on board with something. But my favorite free fun for the holidays has been go cups of hot chocolate, carols or holiday music on the car radio, and we drive around and look at Christmas lights, like excessively. And we just make it a whole thing. And the internet is really great at telling you places and neighborhoods and cul-de-sacs that go really crazy for it. But it has been so much fun for us to do over the years. And it's something that we really look forward to. And all it costs is the gas. So that's something that we enjoy doing. I also love it when my kids use the internet, particularly TikTok this year, as a tool to find new interests and learn new things, learn tips, learn hacks. And I really encourage them to find things that they see that they want to try, like not exploding bottles of Dr. Pepper or anything, but, you know, like crafts or cooking recipes. Like there've been some great recipes that have come out of that. We have done some amazing things with ramen as a result of TikTok. No more dancing though. I put my foot down. We're not doing any more dancing. But one really cool craft that my daughter found, she sent it to me and she said, we got to make this. And I was like, yeah, we do. So I'm going to pull the picture up in 1 minute and bear with me because I'm not super good at this. I don't know if, can you see it? Okay, so it is a little toilet paper Christmas tree ornament, or just, you know, a little toilet paper thing if you don't celebrate Christmas. And it's decorative string, white felt, and we used brown paper drinking straws. And I think we spent maybe $6 on all of the, oh, and a fabric marker, but you can use a Sharpie. And everybody has a Sharpie laying around. And I think we spent $6 on supplies, and we made 20 or 30 of them. And they were just really cute. So we made them. My daughter has given them to all of her teachers and to her grandparents. And, you know, we had a good time with it. And I think it was an opportunity also, especially for my youngest, to kind of reflect on ways that she could see things and then use that as inspiration to do things. And it makes it much easier for me to allow time spent on something like TikTok or Instagram if the accounts that she's following and the way that she's interacting with it is to provide research or creative inspiration for things that we're actually tangibly doing, especially if we can do them together.
Those are all super fun ideas. I love crafts. My sister-in-law's been making the hot chocolate bombs, which I know are all over.
We're doing that
social media.
Christmas Eve.
Those are amazing videos to watch. I'm intimidated about trying to make one. You're doing them tonight?
Well, we're doing them Christmas Eve. So actually finding the molds to make the bombs is not easy. And none of them were available on Prime. So, and they're expensive if you want to buy them, like from a specialty place. They're several dollars each, like $5 each. Which seems a lot for 1 cup of cocoa. So I ordered the molds and the supplies, and they're going to come in right before Christmas. And because we can't, I mean, generally on Christmas Eve, we do things, you know, like we go to church and we visit with family, and we can't do any of those things. So whether it's successful or not, we are going to make hot chocolate bombs on Christmas Eve. That's the plan.
I mean, chocolate's always delicious. It's going to be good.
And
And I have like driving around to see the lights on my bucket list. That is on my list of things we're going to do this year. We usually don't, but this year seems like a really good year to do that. And I think we have a video from PBS Kids to show about another idea. In parents, we had a snowstorm in a bottle idea. This is similar, a snow globe in a craft that, to Julianna's point, is cheap if you have like a mason jar and sequins and glitter, which I feel like I always had when I had young kids. You do need glycerin to make this snow globe work, but it's a cute video, and PBS Kids has a lot of craft ideas. So can we show that video? I think those are cute crafts. There's so many different things you can make, right? If you can't get outdoors and entertain yourself that way. I often go to the outdoors just because it's the only way to truly separate my kids from the computer is if Dr. Laura Markham, do you have any other idea?
Yes, I do. I love your focus on getting outdoors because we know the research shows us that when you spend time outdoors, you're in a better mood. And I agree with you that it is, if you can turn off phones, not pull out your phone while you're outdoors, then you're getting an opportunity to connect that you don't get most of the time when you're at home. I love all of the ideas that have been shared. I want to put in a plug for roughhousing, specifically for any activity that brings laughter. So, with little kids, it's so easy. You pick them up, you throw them around, you chase them around the house, you put them on your back and you're the bucking bronco. They laugh and it changes their body chemistry, literally reduces the stress hormones, increases the bonding hormones. You laugh with someone, you're connecting with them. And even with older kids, with teenagers, if people are sitting around glum, everybody's a little tired or a little spaced out from too many screens or whatever, start a pillow fight. Just pick up a couple of pillows off your couch, throw one at one kid and one at another one. And, a pillow fight will start and everybody will collapse laughing, 10 minutes later. And again, you'll have bonded during this. And I know you said that you've done enough dancing for TikTok, Juliana, which I get. But I think family dance parties where you can always get people laughing are also a wonderful way to bond. And you can sing while you do it, which it's true that singing always lifts the mood. So I'm a big fan of roughhousing of any kind, of being outside. We talked about cooking, but I love the adulting idea that, kids need to learn how to cook things. And so during the holidays, what a great time for kids to choose shifts in a sense. So somebody has Thursday night, somebody else has Friday night, and they work with a parent. So it's a great bonding opportunity, but the parent is the sous chef and the kid is taking the lead on the meal that, of course, the parent has put their stamp of approval. It cannot just be cupcakes, but there does have to be something green, for instance, but the parent is the sous chef and the child is taking the lead to learn how to make something that they wanted to make. And then the final thing that I would love to see families consider is a focus on giving back in some way. This has been a super hard year for everybody. And it's easy to feel like we didn't get everything we wanted or needed or expected this year, every single one of us. Most families have some grieving to do, either from someone that they know well or someone they knew distantly, or simply from the life that didn't happen, the soccer travel that didn't happen and the graduation that didn't happen and all of that. And I think honoring the grief is important. But one of the ways we work through that grief and put it in context is by connecting with our communities and giving back. And that's possible even during a pandemic, that, we could introduce the idea with kids. If they're little kids, they can be kindness elves. If they're older kids, we could say, well, what would you like to do? Would you like to deliver meals to senior citizens who are homebound because of COVID? Would you like to, with a handmade card, would you like to stuff stockings for kids in the shelter? Would you like to simply write thank you letters to people who have been important in your life? The research on that is that when kids write thank you letters, they're not only happier that day that they write them, they're happier for months afterwards. The child who writes the letter is happier. And I think that having received some of those, the people who receive them are happier too. So I think there are all kinds of ways. There's so many ideas online, even during COVID, of ways that families can bond while they're giving back to their community. That kids, after the holiday, when they look back, often I think what kids will say is, yeah, the thing I liked best was when I worked with mom or dad and did that thing that was so good for someone else.
That is super sweet. I love the idea of writing thank you notes or thank you, early on. And this year, a lot of people wrote thank yous to the essential workers for their windows, but, we can continue things like that. And mailing specific letters is super sweet. And the roughhousing is funny. I have little nieces. They are 7 and 4. This is kind of involves screens, but they call me on their Facebook Messenger for Kids app, and they perform a circus for me. And it's a lot of just me watching them do forward rolls over and over and over again. But kids love that. Kids love being active, and they love you to watch them. And even if you're tempted to be like, I'm going to just check Instagram while you're doing these forward rolls, important for them, right? That you're watching them is very important. Dr. Kathy Hirsh-Pasek, I feel like you probably have some things to add to all this as well. Oh, you know what? I think we're going to show a gingerbread video, but I want to hear from you first, and then we'll see the gingerbread video.
Sure. And by the way, Kathy's good enough. No one needs the doctor in front. It's just person to person. But, it seems to me we've heard a lot of really great stuff today about things you can do. I mean, I'm kind of loving the giving back. I know my kids were asked to do little thank you videos since they're so little, 3 and 5. They loved making them, and everyone enjoyed getting it. And Arlene talking about the music, I mean, that was so cool too. And the snowflakes and what we've gotten from Julianna. And I guess you're going to put them in a pile. It's like we've had the putting together things. And so that can be anything from helping to build the shelf that just came from IKEA to drawing things, which includes what we do if we want to invent our own books or make a card if we want to have a holiday card or a giving back, making things, which can be like we all suggested in the kitchen. What we haven't really talked about much is the solving a problem things. Like, there are lots of things that kids think are problems that sometimes we don't know about. Like, what's an easier way to make your bed if you have to make your bed? Or did you ever notice that there's this like last drop that always ends up in your glass? I mean, how do you create a glass so that there's no last drop? You can find out what to do. And in fact, tinkering's a very big thing right now. And what a lot of us have around are cardboard boxes. These are biggies, by the way. They can make forts and taxi cabs. They can make towers. They can make skyscrapers. Amazing things you can do with cardboard boxes, just using your imagination. And there's a new website called Do It, which is telling you how to use all that cardboard and all the rolls that you get from the paper towels and the toilet paper, just to tinker and make something that's never been made before. And for older kids, you can even practice with the radio that hasn't worked for a really, really long time. But there's one other big point I do want to make, and that is that we're adding a lot of activities in this forum for children to do. And you know what our kids really need to learn? How to be bored. The greats of the world have figured out what to do with their time. They haven't always had it scheduled by a CEO parent who feels the need to be there to make every moment count. The moments that count more are not those that are going to create the worker bees of the next generation, but the moments that are going to create the entrepreneurs for the next generation. So if you want an entrepreneur, turn off the screen, maybe turn off your cell phone so you're not a model. I couldn't agree more with Laura. And say, figure it out. Figure out what you want to do. And let's see if for 10 minutes, then 15, then for 20, they can enjoy those moments of thinking and imagining a world they could never have dreamed about before.
That is 100% true. I love it. Thank you. We do have a video for budding architects on how to make a gingerbread house. My nieces, who I referenced earlier, made one from Costco over the weekend, because you can buy kits, but you can also go ahead and try to really make a gingerbread house. This video is from Dr. Larry Rosen, who's from the Children's and Screens board. So he's one of our board members, and he made it especially for this webinar.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Larry Rosen, and I want to share with you something that we have done every holiday since 1989, which is to make gingerbread houses. We started this when my oldest kids were in their preteen and early teen ages. But this is really sort of intergenerational fun. So how do you make a gingerbread house? First of all, if you see on the right, you got to get candy and other edibles. We use things like Tootsie Roll Pops or Tootsie Rolls. We use Starbursts. We use pretzels. We use pretty much anything that we can get. My granddaughter, she started deciding she wanted to draw her own gingerbread houses and make one out of that. So on the left, you'll see her first drawing, I think at 5 or 6. And now you can see how to do it for the beginner. On the left-hand side, you can just get a bunch of graham crackers and you can glue them together and give the kids a bunch of candy and let them glue it on. As the kids get a little older, you can buy a kit. As you see on the right, there's lots of kits you can buy. Some are pre-made already. Some are ones that you put together, but they include everything you need, including all the candy, although it's always nice to get more. We start with very simple decoration. See the 3 trees in the middle, in the front left side? Those are all upside down cone, and then you get more advanced. And you can see here, as the kids get older, we make more and more trees and more complicated trees. Kids can create things. Grayson's first house is on the left when she was about 6, 5, and her newest house that she made last year is on the right. A castle with lots of trees stuck on top and turrets and roads and all sorts of things. If you're really adventurous, what you do is you start with a recipe. And on the bottom, you'll see 2 recipes. One to make the gingerbread house gingerbread, and the other is to make what's called royal glue, which is an icing that holds everything together. From this interior that you're seeing on the left and on the right are very little things. They're all made of candy or other items. You can see on the right-hand side, you can see a little pretzel table. Candy doesn't come easy to use. It comes hard. And so what we do with things like Tootsie Roll Pops or anything that's kind of hard, soft like that, is we literally start the morning by sitting on them. Why do we sit on them? Because they get warm and then they're moldable. And then you can get into detailed work. On the left-hand side, you'll see 2 roses in baskets. The baskets are made out of parts of ice cream cones, and the roses are actually made out of starbursts. On the right-hand side, you see presents under a Christmas tree. Those presents are about a ½ inch square. You'll see a garden with gnomes, and you'll see a waterfall there. On the left-hand side, we have a pond with somebody floating on a raft in the pond. A little incongruous because, of course, it's winter, so they must be very cold. We often make trains and train tracks. It's a fun thing to do. You can use anything you want, all the ideas you can have, be as creative as you'd like. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
Very cute. All right. Our next thing on the agenda here is to just get some gifts. I thought that Arlene's idea of wrapping up one of your kids' favorite toys and having a new outfit on it or a funny hat on it was so brilliant for like a toddler or preschooler. When I think it gets trickier when your kids like in the 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, all these kids who be getting gifts that are not screen dependent. Toy guide is always no screen required, even with.
Yeah, I think we can just go on to our our next question, right? So I think one of the questions was what were some gifts that you thought you might give to that parents could give to their kids this year? That would be something that would be experiential or something special. So I guess since who hasn't gone first? Okay, Juliana, go ahead.
Well, as I mentioned, I have older kids, and this I think would be good advice. Wish I'd gotten it when they were a little younger. This is a great year, I think, to invest in a basketball hoop. Or if you can get your hands on a trampoline, a trampoline. We were gifted one when my kids were younger, and I cannot tell you the number of times we were fortunate that we had room to put it, where I would be like, get out and go jump for 10 minutes, and then you can come back in. But a basketball hoop, it's a great year for that. A skateboard, it's a great year for a skateboard. Make sure you get the pads and the helmets, and I look forward to you arguing with your children about the need to wear them. But yes, like a skateboard is great, because that's something, especially older kids, you're not a dork if you're out skateboarding, you know what I mean? It's like a cool kid thing to do, but they're outside. And Nerf guns, speaking to what Dr. Markham said, don't tell my kids, but I'm buying 5 huge Nerf guns and tons of ammo so that all of us can do it. And my kids will periodically do that. They had some silly string. They went nuts on each other with silly string outside. But it was a way for them to like get a little crazy, get some of their aggression out, but in like a fun way. Another one, and I know that this is screen related, but a lot of teenagers are going to love getting Spotify Premium. And one of the things that I like about that is it gives them the opportunity to explore lots of different kinds of music. You could also do Apple Music, get a family subscription, but I like to do that with the understanding that they're going to make me playlists. Like I love to get playlists from them because I'm an old lady now who wears Walmart jeans and comfortable shoes. So I don't know what's cool. And, my kids have good taste in music. And so I'm learning so much stuff about new artists and it's awesome. And it also gives you real insight into where your kids are at, when you are hearing the stuff that they're listening to all the time. And we used to spend so much time in the car, so I could kind of hear the songs that they were picking and get that little peek into their brains and their well-being that way. We're not in the car anymore. I mean, barely at all. So that's an opportunity for us to share things back and forth. But yeah, that's what the other thing I'm doing, again, don't tell them if you see them, is and this is still available on Amazon. You can buy inflatable reindeer headbands that are actually ring toss games, right? So you blow up the headband and you put it on your head so you have antlers, and then you like toss rings to land on the antlers. And I'm pairing it with enormous reindeer onesies. So like we're gonna look real dumb. And we're probably
These are amazing gift ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, that is really fantastic. And since I see Kathy, you're next.
Well, hi. I really love so many of these ideas that have already been put out. It's just trying to think of the things that are a little bit different. So here are a couple. Anyone remember the good old-fashioned family games? They're actually great. And when you play them with your kids, and they can be played with kids of all ages, well, the little guys still like Candyland. I've never really totally understood that one, but I know they're fixated with it. But even little guys can play along with some of these games, and it's really so much fun. So I'll go for family game night. I'm a big fan of construction toys. I love construction toys of all sorts. They can come in the train variety. They can come in the various block varieties. They can come, by the way, for older kids, in robotics kits. Right now, you can actually build robots, and you can build these cool snails that go along a line, and you can watch as you learn to program as you go along. That's really a lot of fun. I also really like acting. I guess I have theater in my heart. Pam and I share that. And for younger kids, how many of you out there have a costume drawer? The good old-fashioned costume drawer. Do you know kids love to pretend they're anything else. And by the way, it helps them get through a lot. I had one family that called me this year, originally from San Francisco, and they had moved to an island area. And the little kid was scared to death. He was 3-year-old, would not leave the side of his parents, would not leave, like Velcro child. Okay, some of you have probably experienced that before. And I said, who's the most famous person in his life or non-person in his life, a character from a TV show? And they said, it's Paw Patrol. And I said, okay, let's pick a character from Paw Patrol and let's invent a script. And we invented a script together. And who do you think was going to turn out to be the hero of the scripted episode? The child. All you really need to do to learn narrative form is give your kid a choice of, here are the settings we have. Here are the characters we put in your story. Here's the conflict. You come up with the resolution. The child did, and guess what? Now the child feels safe again because that child is in control and became one of the heroes of his own story. Drawings is another big thing. Oh, by the way, don't leave out charades. Charades are great family time activity. Drawing. Even young kids, you may not recognize that those little lollipops are a family portrait, but they are. And my only advice to you as parents is when you see your young child's drawing, don't say, wow, that's a really cool fill in the blank. Ask them what it is and let them tell you, lest you be just like the little prince, where every adult said, it's a hat. And he, of course, knew it was a boa constrictor who swallowed an elephant. And for older kids, well, let them try their hand at pastels, at oil paints, at charcoal, at sketching. They will have a wonderful time discovering, or maybe rediscovering, the Leonardo da Vinci that they have inside. Finally, I wanted to put out magic kits. Little kids love magic kits, and they love to learn how to do it. And they're really fun as a family activity. And then, of course, if we're ever with people again, you can show off all your magic tricks. All right, that's what I have.
Thank you for some gift ideas. Arlene, do you have any gift ideas to add?
Yeah, I have a few things, and some of them have already been said. I'm going to show you. So you can use coupons. So I'm still on my free kick, okay? But you know how if some of you might be familiar with Dr. Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, that we feel love in different ways. So for instance, some kids feel love through time, that when you spend time, quality time with them, they feel like, wow, I feel so loved. Others like words of affirmation. So they would love a note from you, right? So for instance, a coupon for a time person, an ice cream date. Let's say you have 2 kids, 10 kids, whatever, but just you and that one kid going out, and you give them a coupon that I'm going to take only you out. And that time person is really going to love that. For your older kids, maybe it's a coffee date. A chores pass. Maybe your kids have a weekly chore. They have to vacuum the house or they clean the bathroom. If they get a chore pass, get out of chores free, I think they're going to like that. Board game pass, same idea. Sometimes by this time we might be sick of playing board games, but your kid hands you a pass. Okay, let's play this board game one more time. A favorite meal, like there's something, it's got to be something you know how to cook, but something that you make that's your kid's favorite. And then you allow your kid to use their coupon and say, Mom, Dad, I want you to make my favorite meal on Tuesday. Fast food fix. This is the idea that there are some fast food places probably that your children have never, ever gone to. Okay. So sometimes my kids laugh, they'll say like, I've never tried a Der Wiener Schnitzel, or I've never had, Del Taco, or I've never had Arby's. And, it's not like they're missing the world here, but to go somewhere they've never been, they can use that coupon. That's kind of fun. For your older girls who like the mall, going to the mall and saying, hey, here's $20. You can only spend this money if you're with me, if you're with Mom, that's a fun coupon. breakfast out, you know, for a lot of kids, again, it's a way to get alone with your one child. And I think even though we've been spending a lot of time together, when we are just with that one person, it is a totally different dynamic. So that's a fun thing. Massage is the idea, like some of our kids, they love the 5 love languages of physical touch. That was my daughter Lucy at 2 years old. She'd always break into the room, huggy, huggy, huggy. You know, this is the kid that wants to sit on your lap. This is a kid that loves to roughhouse. This is a kid who wants her hair braided. So a massage could be like shoulder massage, could be tickling the feet, you know, whatever they like. And then of course, reading time. So getting, you know, cuddling up with your kids when they're younger, and even with your older kids to read, you know, a few pages of an interesting adventure, that those would be some fun things. So those are a few coupon ideas that you can use.
These are cute gift ideas. Laura, do you have some to round out here?
I do. And some things have already been said, which is great. I won't tag on to those, but I do love to focus always on connection. And I realize that during COVID, we've had a lot of connection, but we haven't necessarily had a lot of deep discussion. So parent-child journals are a wonderful way to take any closeness you've built this year and continue it as you go into the coming year. And they're available for all ages. So you could start when they're 6 and you can, you know, go right through the teen years. And they're available for dads as well as for moms. There are a lot of them online, or you could just take any notebook and pass it back and forth. So when you find it under your pillow, it's your chance to turn it around quickly, write something back to your child. And as long as you play it pretty cool and you don't get overexcited with the kinds of things your child asks you or shares with you, they're testing you often in the beginning. And if you can take that stuff in stride, then they'll get into the deeper things that are bothering them or that they're really looking to talk to you about. Things that your child would never talk to you about in person, they'll often bring up in a journal. Coupons, I love the ones that we just, I was just listening to Arlene and thinking, yep, massages, foot massages are the best. Any massage, chore pass, absolutely. And think in terms of parent-child experiences that your child might want to have with you. Hot chocolate carafe for walks for you to do together, and also for them to go with their friends, to meet up with their friends in the park for a socially distanced connection. A letter of appreciation. I can't tell you the number of kids over the years who I have suggested to the parent that the parents write the child a letter, and later it turned out that the child took that letter, that they read it over and over again throughout their teen years, took it to college with them, that they read it during low moments. Children really take in the love we give them in words, on paper. It sustains them. So that's a gift that your child will treasure forever. There are a lot of cards and other ways of having table topics. Teen Table Topics is the name of a game that's basically cards to ask kids questions. You can also just make up questions. On my website, there are 250 questions to ask your child to get a conversation going. But Teen Table Topics makes it very easy because, you know, you just have cards and you pull them out and you have a conversation. Again, it's a way to connect at a deeper level. And the Worry Eater is just a lovely stuffed animal with a little zipper in it. And your child can write down things they're worried about and put them inside the zipper and zip it up. And you can read them. And again, things that children might not bring up to you verbally. They might be hesitant to bring something up, but they might put it in the Worry Eater. And that gives you a chance to support them in learning skills and strategies to overcome that worry. I won't go over each of the games listed in the game part of my slide, but I will say that cooperative games, I love some of the tried and true games that have always been out there, and I love charades. Some of these cooperative games really are great for kids, for siblings to bond with a positive experience. And all of these games help kids work together in teams and in solving problems together. And the first few games on this list are also great for helping give kids more emotional literacy so that they're more able to express their feelings, talk about their feelings, and also develop empathy for others. So you can see that it goes all the way from, feelings and dealings for 3 to 6 year olds. Mindfulness Matters teaches kids strategies that are good right through the teen years. Again, Totem it's actually a very fun game, and it can be played from 7-year-olds to adults. People don't get bored with it. And the Spark game is about telling a story together that you invent together. So it's also great for bonding. So I'm a big fan of games, and I think there are games, if kids are getting bored with family game night, then it might be time to invest in new kinds of games that actually create some excitement beyond the game itself that has to do with the connection with family members, going into new places together.
Excellent. One of our favorite games actually does involve the phone. We love Heads Up, where it's like the headbands game. You put, I am whatever your character thing is, and everybody has to give you hints, and you have to guess who you are. Anyway, but it does involve our phones, which leads me to our next question. Like we're talking about things that keep you away from the screen and away from your devices, but there are some things to do together as a family that involve a screen. So there is good screen time, like as Arlene pointed out, it's sort of like the vegetable of screen time, like watching a classic holiday movie together, or sharing the Spotify playlist like Julianna was talking about, or our Heads Up game. Like sometimes there is good screen time, and such. This is what I get like a little bit tricked up in when I'm telling my kids, like, put down the phone. Okay, pick up the phone because we're gonna play Heads Up. Like, how do you sort of differentiate between your good screen time and your like junky screen time? Kathy, do you want to start with this one?
Well, you gave me a tough one, but I still remember being equally confused when they told me there were good fats and bad fats, like don't, watch out for the trans fats or whatever it was. And I kept having to review it. I think what we have to come to realize is that, screens are tools, okay? They're not ends in of themselves. So the question we have to ask is what's on the other side of that tool? And are we using the tool to promote human-to-human connection? Or are we using the tool to create solo time? And that's actually pretty much how I would make the division. Is it okay to have solo time? Yeah, it sure is. I like some time alone too. But I think our kids are getting too much of it. And I think COVID has put on the headlines how much people need people, and how much we are a social species that need to connect, as I think Laura would say as well. We're missing connection. So if the screen time connects, I'm all for it. If the screen time doesn't connect, right now, I'm really not. Let's get off it and let's start looking into each other's eyes. And let's think of it like the chocolate cake, the veggies, and the fiber. And maybe we should just choose a little bit more veggies and fiber in our diet and try not to have as much chocolate cake, even though we're all food.
I think, Jessica, I was visiting a college campus once, and this college student had their phone and then a little journal, the exact size of the phone, like rubber banded to it. And I was like, what is that? Why do you do that? And he said, what I do is I write down in my little journal, like going to like text or buy shoes. And then he does it on his phone. So the idea that he's trying to make a habit for himself is that when he uses his phone, he knows exactly what he's going to do with it. And then he puts it back in his pocket. And I was like, you're going to be a CEO one day. Like, that's really smart. So I think one thing for all of us is just if we can go online with purpose and we know, okay, then it's not so confusing. Like you said, I couldn't. Now you said I could. Now you said it's like, okay, now we're going to go online to play this. Okay, now we're going to go on Amazon to buy these shoes. Now we're going to watch this movie together. So before that iPad is picked up, it's okay, I'm going to play this game for 30 minutes. It's like stated, this is what I'm going to do with this device. And then it really has to be enforced. And that's what we as parents are. Well, you said that's, so if we kind of get into that rhythm of before we pick up the phone, before we pick up an iPad, before we log on, et cetera, that we can state this is what I'm here to do. And then it kind of shows us. So I think purpose and actually saying it out loud, and even for little kids, wouldn't that be cool if your little kid could say, I'm going to watch Paw Patrol, and then I'm going to do something else, right? And that's a muscle that they're using.
These are great, like making it collaborative, or at least saying out loud, or why you're going on the screen. It helps make sure that you're doing good screen time. There can be good screen time. Laura, do you have anything to add to good screen time? How to know it's good?
I think I don't need to add anything else. I think what's been said is great. Parents know. I in addition to connection, which is always my first thing, I would just say creativity, always a great thing that you can use screens for. Learning, always a great thing. And we know the difference. Parents know what the differences are.
Julianna, do you have anything to add?
I really feel like Kathy's right on about connection. Like if it's fostering connection, maybe we have to lighten up a little bit, like co-viewing videos or co-playing video games, those things. Maybe if we were a little bit tighter on our limits when the weather was better or pre-COVID, we have to look at those as opportunities for connection, especially with their peers that they might not be getting somewhere else. Particularly with video games, I think like we might need to get into our kids' head and their space a little bit to really understand why they're playing. And I think it speaks to Arlene's point about having them articulate why they need more time. My son plays a lot of video games. He's a teenager, but it's also because we just moved, and that's his connection with his friends from home. And they are co-playing. I mean, this notion that somehow your gamer is like playing by themselves in a basement, completely isolated, it's just not true. Almost all the games that kids are playing on consoles like Xbox or PlayStation are multiplayer games, and they're engaging with their friends. Now, I mean, keep an eye on how long and what they're saying and the type of games, but there is connection happening there. And I think as long as they can articulate why they're using it, what they're getting out of it, and have some reasonable limits, I don't know that it's a terrible thing. And especially if they're not getting outside or they're not able to spend that social time, I think it might be okay to give them a little more wiggle room to
I know. Yeah, my 15-year-old definitely that's where he's meeting his friends. Like there's no school happening. That's where his friends are. Yeah. I've been trying to be really cognizant of when the good friends log on, because I have noticed that other, like, Tommy comes on after 7 and Kelvin comes on, even later than that. No one's on in the morning. So trying to have this conversation about like, why don't you log on when your good friends are on and otherwise. But these are all tricky conversations, trying to convince your kids to walk away for a little bit. We wanted to just kind of, because we've been mixing all ages into this here, talking about a couple tips for specific ages and stages. I don't know if we want to go, obviously babies, we can leave out of this for now. We'll leave the babies alone. But starting even with like toddlers who have tablets and preschoolers, I guess we're just looking for like a tip to something else to do with each age. Does anybody want to start with the youngest? Is anybody feeling passionate about the youngest kids? Kathy?
Hi, well, I'm a youngest kid kind of person, and I think it's often because the kids don't know what else they can do. And I think sadly what's happened, it's got a name even, it's called technoference, is that we constantly as adults pick up the tablet or we pick up the phone and we cut our attention to our child, because obviously that's the most important thing in the room is our tablet or our phone or our computer. That's what we're teaching our children. So I think at the very youngest ages, what we really need to do is show them the alternatives and let them know it's okay. And part of that, this is going to be a hard one to hear, folks, is that little kids are messy and little kids get up and they zoom around. And what we don't need to do all the time is give them some elixir to keep them still because it's not what they do. Did you know, by the way, when babies first walk, when they really get it down, did you know that they walk the equivalent of 7 football fields a day? And that's how they develop their muscles. So sitting down on a couch, that's going to have consequences later on. So I say, let's go for some of those other toys. Let's show them the alternatives, and then they will figure out what to do when they're bored when they're 12 and 13.
That's great. Now, when you get into like preschoolers and kindergarten age, they get real loves for their storylines and their characters and their Paw Patrol and their Bluey, and some of these shows get super addictive to them, and trying to transfer that over to toys can be a challenge. Does anybody have some advice for that sort of preschool kindergarten age? Laura?
Well, if you only watch a screen certain times of day, if you're 3 or 4 or 5, then those are the times of day you would expect it. If you're allowed to watch a screen whenever you're bored, then you'll say you're bored a lot, right? So I think parents just have to decide how much they think is okay and what time of day. And again, like dessert, I really like it at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock after a full day of a good meal of being outside, running around. And, 3-year-olds still like the messy play in the sense of sensory play. Every 3 or 4-year-old needs a place they can go in their house. And if you have a tiny apartment, then maybe you set it up in the bathroom, and it's only there for certain hours of the day, but someplace where you can actually play with water and bubbles and sand and spaghetti that your parent has dropped a few drops of food coloring in, and you're mixing up the colors. And, there's so many ideas for sensory boxes and bags online that parents can do with very little investment and very little time. And children love them. They need to explore with their hands. They need to build things with blocks, right? And they will do all those things, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, if we set it up for them and encourage them. You can even, there's a term, strewing. You can, when they get up in the morning, maybe there's some things strewn around artfully. Everything else is on its shelf or wherever it belongs, but there are a few things strewn around that will engage your child's interest. And kids, absolutely, yes, of course, screens are mesmerizing, but if they find something strewn around that's like leads them in a certain direction, they're like, oh, this looks cool to play with, something they haven't thought about in months, right? So it sometimes can take a little bit of time and attention to think about it in advance, but then kids busy, even kids who otherwise beg for screens, kids can stay busy with something, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, for an hour, which most parents know that's a long time for a 3 or 4-year-old to stay totally focused on something and not asking to watch a screen. And then, after that hour, you'll have to get involved again and do something else with them. But that gives you a little bit of time that you've just bought.
I love that idea. There's a blog called Days with Gray that we sometimes look at, that just setting something up at night for them to come down in the morning, and there's something interesting out to look at. Yeah, it kind of can absorb them for a while, so you don't go straight to morning television. Having scheduled TV time or showtime, YouTube time is super important. Arlene, do you have ideas for like your school age going into middle school? Sometimes kids can be like crafty and interested in cooking.
Yes. So I have an elementary school child, and she loves animals. And so I think, 4 years ago, we got a puppy. So, we didn't get the COVID puppy, but we got a puppy, and that's been so good. So whether it's a big thing like a dog, because that's a big responsibility, and so, but my goodness, if you get a puppy under the tree, that is a big year. So it could be obviously much smaller. It could be a hamster. It could be, I had a friend that got a frog. I mean, it could be anything, but truly for many kids, a little pet, depending on what your threshold is for cat, hamster, guinea pig, whatever, iguana, whatever your kid likes, could be a really beautiful Christmas gift. And we really, during the pandemic, just thought, my daughter loves horses, but we're not going to go buy a horse or anything like that. But we honestly just thought, let's look around us in our community. And for us, we asked at our church, like, does anyone know anyone with horses? And from that, we got a place that we could come to a ranch once a week. And my daughter, Lucy, helps, and she helps groom the horse and picks up the poop and does these things. And then she gets to ride, and they've been teaching her to ride. And so we've been going once a week since June to this ranch, and it has been a lifeline. So you never know in your community, if you start asking around, can my child volunteer at such an, the ranch was perfect. It's all outdoors, it's all the space you could think of. So get creative with that to make a connection with something that your kids love. And then for my older kids, and I'll put this in the chat, my son, like Juliana's, loves Nerf guns, and he loves to modify Nerf guns. So he takes them and he adds scopes to them, and he makes them more powerful. And there's this website called outofdarts.com, and all they do is sell parts for your Nerf gun. So as your kids get older, they can still use their Nerf guns. They just soup them up really good. So that's outofdarts.com. And then my daughter loves to play magic tricks with cards. So she loves like the deck of cards that's so beautiful and so crisp. And she loves having lots of, she has at least 30 decks of cards, and each of one is different, so that's artofplay.com. And they have amazing puzzles, wooden games, all sorts of things. So I'll put those two sites in the chat.
Thank you. Juliana, do you want to have anything else to say about our teens?
I think one thing, and it's kind of a downer to bring up, but our teens are seeing a lot. We're seeing big increases in declines, I should say, in well-being, overall well-being, and increases in self-reported depression symptoms and anxiety symptoms. So, while I do think it's important for kids to use their tech to stay connected to their friends and to foster connection, we really need to be touching base with them all the time about how they're doing and doing mental health checks. And as much as I like the idea of them learning how to self-regulate their tech use and learning, especially as they get older, and, I have one that's going to be, going to college next year, we're really trying to have her embrace balance between have tos and want tos. So, you can stay up a little later on your phone, but the things that you have to get your have tos done first. But as much as I want to promote self-regulation with teenagers and having them learn to moderate their own tech use and set their own limits, one thing that I don't budge on, and it's the biggest fight that we have in our house, is not sleeping with the tech in your room and prioritizing sleep. So if any of you have been told or are feeling like the worst parent in the world, I just want to reassure you that I am that person. I am the worst and the meanest. And I'm also the only one who doesn't let their kids sleep with their iPhones. So I hope that makes you feel a little better. But they need sleep. And the more sleep they get, the easier it is for them to self-regulate. The less sleep they get, the more impulsive their behavior is. So it becomes this cycle. So they feel babied when I force them to get sleep. But it is important that we keep them on like I'm a monster because I make them sleep with something that resembles circadian rhythms, right? Like you sleep at night and you wake up in the morning and they're like, what? No, that's crazy. I want to cook ramen in the kitchen and make a mess at 3 a.m. because I'm a teenager. No, you have to sleep like a person, and you have to charge your phone in the common area, and they hate it, but it's good for them. So, and it helps them it helps their mental health, and it helps their sort of resiliency and their emotional regulation, and they're not going to like it, but there you go.
Yes, I agree with all. All right, just one more quick question because we're going to try and wrap up. But is there just name something merry about this coming couple weeks? We got 15, 16 days left of this year. What is something merry for families to think about? Arlene?
Well, the merry thing that my kids are thinking of is we're going skiing, and my kids love to ski. So that's one way they cannot be on a phone and ski at the same time. So you guys could, but I don't ski. So they're going to ski and I'm going to read, and that's going to be awesome.
Laura?
I would say time with parents. I know that if kids have been home going to school, they've spent time with parents, but that's been time where parents were forcing them through the schedule and online learning, which has been so fraught. So just relaxed time with parents where parents can enjoy their children means the world to kids.
Yay. Kathy, what about you? Something merry.
Yeah, to me, this is, out of every disaster, which we would all kind of think of 2020 as, it's an age of opportunity. And I couldn't agree more with Laura on this. I think it's time for, the pillow fights that you talked about, Juliana. It's time for jumping on beds. Remember jumping on beds? Doesn't work so well in Tempur-Pedics, but everywhere else. I mean, we're all getting tons and tons of stuff in boxes right now. I don't know about you guys, but I have so many boxes. But let's make some forts. Let's make some obstacle courses. Let's take this age of opportunity for our kids and let's really make something out of it that's a memory. Because again, 15 years from now, they can talk about how everyone was so busy they didn't even see each other when they were jailed up in their own home. Or they can talk about how they had the coolest time with their parents. And do you know how imaginative my parents are? So that's what I think is the coolest thing that can come out.
I love it. What about you, Juliana?
We're looking forward to making and eating tons of great food together. And Monday, which is the winter solstice, there's going to be a convergence of Saturn and Jupiter for the first time in 800 years. And, there are some astrophysicists calling it the Christmas star. So we're kind of jacked up about that. Like, it feels like this cool, like the symbolism of that is really beautiful. And so we're all kind of excited about it. We're going to do something. We haven't figured out what, but we're going to do something awesome.
Let's go look at the sky. Let's look at the snow. Let's look at the lights. Let's just enjoy, right? We know what we're in for. We've been in this for months. Like, let's make the most of it. I keep saying if I had known what this year was going to be, I really could have embraced it more. But so I know what this winter break's going to be. I'm going to embrace it. We're going to make it fun. Thank you all so much for such an amazing hour and a half of ideas. I'm going to hand it back to Pamela now from Children and Screens.
Thank you, Jessica, Kathy, Arlene, Laura, Juliana, Larry, and our other video contributors. This has been so wonderful, and I've taken a lot of notes myself. Learn more from the experts from their social media, podcasts, books, shown on your screen. We hope you are leaving in a festive spirit with lots of imaginative ideas for spending time as a family. To continue learning about this topic, visit our website where we have shared 12 tips for the holidays. We will also post a video of today's webinar on our YouTube channel, where we encourage you to, encourage you to subscribe to, and share with your fellow parents, teachers, clinicians, researchers, and friends. For more from Children and Screens, please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn at the account shown on your screen. Our first webinar of the new year on Wednesday, January 13th at noon will focus on the digital divide and how individuals, schools, and communities can work to close that gap. Stay tuned for more information about this and our other events in 2021. When you leave the workshop, you'll see a link to a short survey. Please click on the link and let us know what you thought of today's webinar. We wish you a wonderful holiday season and a bright, hope-filled, and healthy new year. Bye, everybody.